Hi, this is Katie. I'm going to show you how to do a self-portrait today. And also we're going to talk about drawing a face. So a self-portrait is just a portrait, which is a picture of a person that an artist makes of themselves. So many artists make self-portraits and have been for a really, really long time. I've got a cool book that I like to show in a classroom when I'm doing this. It's 500 different self-portraits from really a super long time ago up until recently. There are so many, like millions in the world. I've got a couple of cool examples too that I want to show you before we get moving. This is by Yayoi Kusama. It's a self-portrait from 2010. This is a really cool example, I think, because the artist used a lot of patterns and different bright colors, so it doesn't have to be realistic. When you're doing your self-portrait, I want you to think about things about you that are important. So, like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite shape? Do you like a sport a lot? Like, what's your favorite food? Really anything will work when you're thinking about that. This is another cool example from 2000 by an artist named Chuck Close, who also uses patterns in a different way than Yayoi Kusama. Very exciting as well. So lots of different artists do this. There are so many examples. If I were you, I would look up Frida Kahlo, who did amazing examples of self-portraits that are symbolic in the way that we're talking about. She uses different things that like about her life to make the self-portrait more about her than just what she visually looks like. And that's super important because I don't want you to worry too much about making this look any specific way. I'm going to give you some basic outline information about how to make a face look like a human face really easily. There's some kind of measurement stuff that usually works. It's not exactly right. Everybody's face is different and beautiful in lots of different ways. So we're gonna think about that too. It's super exciting. So like, what does your nose look like? Probably looks different than my nose. What does your eye look like? It looks different than my eye because we're different people. And that's really fun. So we're gonna think about the different shapes that make up different parts of the face and then like a basic measurement. And I'll draw that out for you. And I want you not to worry too much about making yours look like exactly like you. I know it's hard to remember that when you're drawing it. It's really easy to be hard on yourself, but I want you to look at some examples of a little bit abstract art historical examples. This is a Marc Chagall self-portrait. His face is made up of shapes, and he's making some art in his example, so that's cool. This is an Andy Warhol self-portrait based from a picture, but you see, you don't see much of his face, and it's pink and red. So, you know, this is an example with charcoal by Adrian Piper. This is an example by Francisco Toledo. They look very different, and this is just using black, so you don't have to use color at all. That's totally fine. I couldn't find many of my kid examples, but you see, this looks like a person, and they just used the basic facial structure stuff that we talked about. This one's made up of dots, so many different kinds of dots and patterns, and it's so cool, and it's so simple too. You see that shape, oval shape, the nostrils, just those little tiny nostrils show you where the nose is, so you don't need a whole lot of information on here. Eye shapes are similar to the mouth shape in a way, so I want you to just have fun and think about the way that you look. What do you want in your self-portrait? The first thing I'm going to do when I start drawing my portrait is I'm going to draw an oval. And I want my oval to look a little bit like an egg with the large side of the egg on the top. And so I can do that pretty easily by drawing a circle and then making the bottom of the circle a little bit longer. And you see that looks a little bit like an egg. And that's the shape I want. So then I'm going to draw some guidelines. These guidelines need to be light. So I want you to use light pencil pressure, whisper lines for this, and we're going to divide this egg in half both ways. So half up and down and half side to side, vertical and horizontal, halfway marks. And because I'm going to erase all this stuff later, I'm drawing it with sketchy lines, and I'm not measuring it. It doesn't need to be measured. It's fine. The next thing I'm going to do is divide this space in half and also this space. And actually, I feel like I could use a little bit more on this to make it more like half. It could be a little bit longer on this side. It's a good time to do it now. So the next thing I'm going to do is divide this space in half. And then I'm going to divide this space in half. So my egg is now marked with quarter way marks. So 1/4, 2/4, that's half, 3/4, and 4/4, that's a whole. And so then the next thing I'm going to do is divide the space in between here and here in half. And so that's about 1/8, because half of a quarter is 1/8. So awesome. Then the next thing I'm going to do is start drawing the facial features. So this is something that is really hard to explain because it doesn't really make sense, but it really works. So I want you to suspend your disbelief for a minute. We're going to draw the eyes on this line. The middle of the eyes will be on this line here. So you're going to draw the eyes far enough apart so that one eye will fit in between them. So if it helps, you can do this so you get the spacing right. It's about the same size eye shapes. The eye is shaped a little bit like an almond or an oval that's really long. There's usually enough space on this side also for a whole eye. So I'm going to outline the shape of the one that I want. And so again, I'm like trying to think of an almond shape. And everybody's eye is different. So once we've got all this shape stuff in place, I'm going to ask you to use a mirror. And I've got a funny example of a mirror here that was my grandma's makeup mirror. So once I'm done, I'll show you this basic stuff because you need to figure out what your face looks like. That's important. And so the hairline starts here. I'm going to work on that later. The hair starts around here. And everybody's is different again too. So you're going to look at your face and figure out what you look like. The nose will go here. And so usually a nose is kind of like a circle with two smaller circles overlapping on the sides. And then you can easily do this by outlining this circle side and this circle side, and then starting up higher here and outlining the bottom of that one, kind of underlining it. And then we're going to end up erasing all of these guides that helped us figure out where that stuff goes. That's a pretty good basic nose shape. And the mouth is around here. And so everybody's jaw is different. So we're going to look at that. Our shape, face shape, will totally determine what the drawing looks like. Mouth is a little bit like an oval again. So we can do a little bit like an oval shape here and go along the middle of it for where your mouth opens. And usually there's some like a bottom of a circle here and some circles in here that you can outline to get the mouth shape down. But basically that's what it ends up looking like. Your eyebrows are just above your eye also, not very far above it, but not touching. And you just want to get the basic shape of that stuff. Inside of your eye are some circles. When you're drawing, you're not going to see the top of this circle because it's interrupted by your eyelid here. And everybody's eyelid is different too, so look at your own eyelid. Mine is going to look different than yours. And inside of this is your pupil, so your iris and your pupil. And that helps to figure out those line shapes. And now, once I've got this structure stuff down, I'm going to take my mirror. Here you can see me and my camera. So this is how I'm doing it. But if I look at the shape of my face here, I notice that I've got some lines here, and I can do this without my glasses on too. That helps to do all that stuff. So I want you to look in the mirror while you're doing that. You can also ignore that and make it abstract, which means that it doesn't totally represent the way that you look, which is super cool and fine. And you're welcome to do that. Absolutely. And your ears the top of your ear starts where your eye is and ends around where your nose is. So you don't see much of that. It's just a little slice of your ear from the side. So, usually when I'm teaching this in a classroom, I'm like pointing at my face a lot, but it's hard to do that here. So I'm going to think about my chin here. And And I kind of have a big chin, actually, because everybody's different. Again, and I'm also going to think about the shadows that I see. The bottom of the nose has a lot of the shadow stuff. The top of the nose is where the light is hitting from the lamp or the window or whatever, wherever you are. Your neck starts sort of below your eye and on your chin. And then I'm going to erase a lot of these guidelines that I drew so that it looks a lot more like a person. And it'll be a lot easier. Those lines are distracting. Tell you what. So erase, erase. And I know my mouth isn't that. I have a different shape of mouth than that. So I'm going to erase that for a little while and then come back and draw it again, which is a great idea for you too. Don't worry if you have to erase it. That's totally normal. If you choose to color it in with paint or crayons or colored pencils, this may take you an extra day. If I'm teaching in a classroom, this can take 2 days. So I would say that that's something that's good to remember. It takes a long time to get used to it. I will show you how to do a couple of the facial features, which are the parts of the face that you see. An eye often is an almond shape, but you need to look at your own eye because everybody's eye looks different. There are different kinds of eyelids. Some of them you don't see quite as much. Some of them you see a lot. So it really depends on your face. Everybody's face is beautiful. So just look at your own face. Look at your own beautiful face and draw that. So again, it's an almond shape, and you're going to see some of the pupil here, which is that middle one. You might see a reflection. I'm also going to ask you to not worry too much about every eyelash. You can draw a thicker line on the top, which sort of shows you that there might be eyelashes there, and that looks like pretty good. Again, your eyebrow is above your eye, not too far. Look at your own face. Everybody's got differently shaped eyebrows too. Different kinds of eyebrows, different colors of eyebrow hair. Exciting and beautiful. Okay, let's try a nose. Usually it's easy to make a quick nose by doing 3 circles. The bigger one is in the middle, 2 smaller ones on the sides, and they're all kind of like on a line. Depends on your nose though. You need to look, because some people's noses start down here, and then it would be like this. Some people's would be like up here, and some people you can see their nostrils more than other people. You're not ever really going to see your whole nostril because it's at an angle. This is like your ears also. It's at an angle, so you're not going to, a lot of the time people will draw a nostril that, because I know it's a big thing that you breathe out of. That's important, yes, but also you're not going to see the whole thing. You're usually just going to see like that sort of from the front. So, and then again, when I draw guidelines like these circles, I am going to erase most of that information before I get the final lines down, because those lines are confusing, right? It's like super distracting to see the lines. And look at your own nose. Where's the shadow in your nose? I know I have some of my nose shadows kind of are up here and then also down around the side of my nostrils. But there are so many different nose shapes. Your nose shape is the important part here. It doesn't need to look exact though. Please remember that. It can be abstract, like Yayoi Kusama's beautiful shape, circle self-portraits, or Chuck Close's, or so many people. Even Vincent van Gogh, his self-portraits, I'm sure they look like him, but they're made up of a lot of little lines. Frida Kahlo's, I'm sure look like her, but she's usually got all kinds of cool stuff around her, or like a story. And I want you to think about that too. This is up to you. You get to pick what your self-portrait will be like. So there's like shadow around the sides of it too. These aren't hard shadows. They're not big lines usually. They're small shadows, so you can do some cool shading if you want to, or you can ignore that part and just think about the dark shadows on the bottom of your nose. So let's do a mouth too. So that's kind of like an oval. It's a little bit like that eye shape, but you've got usually your top lip goes up and down, so you can kind of think about outlining circles here, the top of a circle. And then that's below this, right? And so there's like kind of an indent here. and some shadows that lead up to your nose. The middle of your mouth, where you open and close it, that's the biggest line, right? You mostly see when you're drawing this. So look at your own mouth. And then there's a lot of shadow on your upper lip, generally, more shadow than your lower lip, because this one sticks out further on most people. You're going to see the shadow underneath that lip as well, a little bit more. And so, again, you could spend like 2-3 days on this if you wanted to. Or like just an hour or half an hour, up to you. Think about the different shapes that you see in your hair, because my hair is not like anybody else's hair, and yours might not be either, or might be like your family's hair. It's your hair. Draw your own hair. Smudging that around by trying to erase it, but you see what I mean. I think my hairline starts up a little bit higher than that, so I'm gonna kind of do that. There you go. Probably looks a little bit more like me. Do you have anything cool on? Think about your outfit too. And that's helpful to do because you don't usually just have a head that's floating in the room. You've got some cool outfit on. So just keep on drawing.